All right, fellas, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related, but especially advanced battlefield command and tactics. And we have another custom battle by request today. I've had a lot of requests from guys who struggle with enemies that are very defensive. In other words, fighting against an opponent who seems to be just cowardly hiding at the very back of the map, and we are going to explore that in this episode. I'll show you very briefly the forces and then we'll launch right into this. We've got Imperials, and we're going to play Sturgeons. The Imperial guys in this case will be playing defensively, and I get that by selecting this side, making us the attacker, and we're going to give them more troops than us, about 10%. Additionally, both sides have all the units except the recruits, and both sides have one minor clan each. Obviously, we've also given them access to all the high-end units, cataphracts and whatnot. And of course, in order to make the enemy defensive here, we've given them 46% archers, right? So this enemy is going to tend to sit back towards the back of the map and can be a difficult opponent to deal with, especially when you're outnumbered. So the first thing we're going to do is basically watch what happens when you put sergeants in charge of this battle. So we'll launch into this and we'll very briefly observe this. Now, fortunately, I have the RTS mod, so we'll be able to run this faster than you normally would. And at the beginning here, all we're going to do is sort of very briefly watch the enemy behavior. You can see they've got some horse archers, 2 cav wings, a bunch of archers, and then infantry. And we'll see what they do here. So it appears after pacing back and forth a few times, they are settling on a defensive position back here towards the back of the map next to these other village buildings. So now what we're going to do is turn things over to the sergeants, and we will see what the allied AI does with full control of the steering wheel. This Sturgeon force, of course, has all the Drunzinic lords and stuff like that. It's got a good amount of cav, a small amount of archers, and a lot of infantry. And we'll see what kind of plan, or rather lack thereof, the allied AI comes up with here. In fact, we'll speed this up even more. I'm not going to waste your time on these. You don't need to see the AI struggle around too much, because, of course, you guys can do all these custom battles. This is mainly for illustrative value. You see the enemies sitting back, and they're pounding the Sturgeons with arrows. They're also attacking them with cavalry and sort of slowly distracting from them. Now, this is interesting. They're leaving their archers in the front to the very last second here, at which point I presume they're kind of inverting their formation. So the archers move back, infantry roars towards the front. Now, their archers can no longer shoot. You can see we're right at the back of the map here, but these archers can sure as heck attack. And as this Sturgeon force is attacking here, they're now being shot and attacked by a combination of cavalry, archers, and infantry. Which is not optimal, maybe, right? The Northern Empire is not exactly defending here like fucking Napoleon, but at least it's effective, as the right screen, the upper right screen tells you the Sturgeons are getting butchered pretty bad here. Of course, they outnumbered the Sturgeons, and naturally the Sturgeons had virtually no coherent plan, no flanking, no use of skirmishers, cavalry, squares, etc., right? And the result is a disastrous loss for the Sturgeons. I'll let this play out for just a few more seconds here so we can get a baseline of how badly the AI does. It looks like they'll have killed less than half of the Northern Empire force. Now, of course, you guys are not fighting nearly this bad, right? There's no way even a new player would fight that bad. The guys who are still using sergeants, please don't use sergeants. As you can see, it doesn't work, right? You turn the AI, turn control of your army over to the AI, and you see how bad it is. It's just as bad as it can get. Let us take control here and do very basic tactics. I'm going to use the same 3 divisions, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Of course, we're still using the RTS mod here. I know it's kind of fast, and I will slow this down. But what we're going to do here is very basic. I'm going to set our infantry towards the front, our cavalry kind of offset a little bit towards the side, and then our archers behind both of them. And then, once these units are in position, we're going to charge with the infantry and cavalry, right? These are absolutely basic tactics, and we're going to see how effective basic tactics are. I will also have the archers charge, right? That way that they're sort of moving up aggressively towards the enemy, and we'll see what happens here. So the enemy's trying to kill me, of course. We'll send in the infantry, charge infantry. I'm running behind our units here. No idea where our infantry is charging. I guess they're charging the horse archers. So here, let me take we'll do the blimp mode for this so we can watch this shit with a degree of understanding. So the cav is charging, the infantry is charging. The infantry is kind of in a big convoluted block. And let's make sure the archers are charging, so they're advancing aggressively. Now, of course, the enemy's running into their shield wall. The Allied forces are running into their shield wall. They have a nice shield wall of infantry here kind of protecting the enemy archers. And at this stage, it's a pretty close battle. You would not say, oh shit, flying animal for sure. You would not say one side or the other is really winning, although it does look like now the Northern Empire is starting to pull away. You have to remember part of the reason this is happening is that the Northern Empire outnumbers the Sturgians. The other reason is generally units that are standing still. In other words, especially archers, javelin throwers, will do better than units that are moving, because units that are moving obviously cannot shoot, they can't throw their javelin, etc. Units that are moving obviously are still trying to get into position to actually use their ranged weapons, and hence the defender typically has an advantage. This was true of the American Civil War and is often true in military history. Napoleon, of course, would laugh at static troops and say that doesn't work. But as you can see here, 2 consecutive battles in a row, this Sturgian force has been destroyed, right? Not quite as bad as the sergeants being in charge. That was a little bit better. But if you use these very basic tactics, you still get your asses kicked in this episode. All right, so let's take control of this AI. I'm not going to change anything here, and let's see if we have any more success. The first thing I need to do, of course, is slow it down. It's still going to be on the RTS fast mode, so we'll go in here and just unclick that. Now I'm going to use 6 divisions. This is going to be complicated for some guys that just started, and maybe even a little bit intimidating for guys who have a little bit of experience. But what we're basically going to do is split our army into 2 almost identical sides. Slight differences. In other words, we're going to have basically a javelin side or a skirmishing side. The right flank is going to be the skirmishing side. We will put the 3rd Cavalry, the 5th Archers, and the 6th Skirmishers all on this right side, and then the other troops will be on the enemy's the enemy's right flank also, but our left will be the 1st Infantry, not quite that many troops maybe, 1st Infantry, 2nd Cavalry, and 4th Archers, right? This is dividing our forces intentionally. Caesar would like this if he was facing us. But what we're going to essentially try to do here is attack the enemy at multiple angles and pressure them from multiple points. This will make it difficult for them to defend, right? They will be moving their cavalry up and have a difficult time. Their archers will be getting shot from the side. Their infantry shield wall won't know where to put it, so to speak. And this has at least some chance of at least being a closer fight than those last couple disastrous attempts. So this battlefield's kind of convoluted. There's fucking all kinds of horse pens and stuff like that. So what I'm actually going to do in this battle is 2 separate movements of my divisions, right? I'm going to obviously run this at a little slower speed. I could run it at a faster speed, but you guys wouldn't be able to tell what the fuck is happening. So for the sake of education, for the sake of instructional value, I'm going to actually control this and move this slowly. Now we're going to move 1 infantry division right here. And I'm not going to shield wall these troops until they're in position, right? We don't want these guys moving slowly. Units are much slower in shield wall. So we're going to get these units positioned, and then once they're close, like these cavalry are, then you can shield wall, right? You don't want to shield wall too early, and they're having a hard time jamming into that little field, which is fine. If they shield wall too early, of course, your units will move really slowly, and there's a possibility your archers will even arrive at the location you're setting your units before the rest of your troops, which will obviously be a suboptimal situation for you. Now we're going to go to the other units, right, this 3rd, 5th, and 6th over here, and we're going to start setting these guys up. Just like I said, we're going to apply pressure on the enemy at multiple locations. Now the number on the bottom is important. You can see their troops, 244 archers there. Here, slow it down. You can see that number on the bottom is 244 archers. That means they're 187 units or roughly yards away. So what we want to do is set our units up at about 150. Between, I would say 120 and 180 is an acceptable range. Why? Because if they're too far, they won't be in range to attack. If they're too close, they will be getting shot to pieces, right? If you move your units up so that they're 40 away, your guys are going to get absolutely skewered before they can even get to where you want them to go. So now that they're getting closer again, just like the other ones, we will shield wall these guys, right? Shield wall there. Now this is an important point. Just like Napoleon with his core system, we are developing two independent functioning armies here. This is our right flank, and they're perfectly capable of fighting on their own. And then the other side, right, which is the side that we managed at the beginning of this battle. Both of these sides are effectively capable on their own of sort of independently being an offensive force for us. Trying not to get killed here. See the enemy cavalry's kind of coming up, trying to skirmish with us. And as a battlefield commander, you're always looking for this. I'm looking for a nice, easy access to the enemy. Shit, I just lost most of my health. There, I got the cheat code or whatever. I was able just to automatically get full health. So obviously we're not using any kind of cheats or anything here, but I've learned to enable that for these custom battles. All right, so we're bringing in the bows here. We're bringing in the 1st Infantry and the 2nd Cavalry. And the reason I'm bringing them there is because they have a clean sight and a clean access path to where the enemy is. I don't know if you can see that there. It should be pretty obvious that there's no ditches or fences and shit in our way. That's an important point as a battlefield commander. Because you have absolute control over where your troops go, you really do want to babysit them, right? Otherwise, they will stand behind a house. Your archers will sit there looking at you like, well, what do you want me to do, man? I don't know what you want me to do. And, of course, they won't shoot. So now that other side, we're moving them up. You can see the enemy's archers are pounding our cav here, but they're in shield wall, so these guys can handle it. Now we're going to start moving these guys up. All right, I'm still trying to protect myself here so I don't get fucking killed. Now that side is getting really close, right? This side over here with this 3rd Cavalry, in fact, we're going to move them very close to the enemy because we are now starting to clamp in on the enemy. We're coming in on multiple sides. We've got archers shooting the enemy at multiple locations now. But what we really want in this battle is to get our infantry to their archers. Because they have more archers than us, we can't win a ranged battle. But we sure as heck can win if our infantry can get in without being obliterated. Now, we still may lose this, right? Because the enemy has more troops than us, 10% more, and they're playing a good defensive position. Like, their defensive position right now is actually quite good. I think I moved the wrong unit. Yeah, I moved the 5th instead of the 4th. So we've held those guys there. Over here now, we're going to start moving in aggressively, right? At this stage, we're ready to kill the enemy. So this cavalry with their javelins, right? The 3rd Cavalry Division, these guys have javelins. We're going to move these guys right in on the enemy. The 6th Skirmishers is also going to move in on the enemy. And the archers can just be where they are, right? They can just continue to shoot. At this stage, you can see the enemy is really being hemmed in. So we want to start bringing forth fucking death for the enemy, right? We've got cavalry here. To hell with your archers, right? We'll stab these guys in the face. We're just going to roll our cavalry right through. Over here now, this infantry is throwing javelins, so we're not in a hurry to attack. But we want these units get closing in for the kill. So I'm calling in the 1st. This 2nd Cav Division, they can be told to charge. The 1st Division is told to charge. Right now our infantry is starting to arrive at their archers, and that's going to have a positive net result for us. We've essentially cornered the enemy here. Now they still outnumber us, but you have to remember a lot of their units are these weak archers, right? And archers obviously are not going to do as well. As soon as I take control of a guy gets killed, archers are obviously not going to do as well as infantry in melee. Bitch slap a guy or two that sort of snuck beyond our forces here. Now the death spam is not wildly in our favor, right? You have to remember we're outnumbered. I'm going to move our archers over here a little bit. Bitch slap this guy. But what we've done is really eliminate the range advantage of their archers, right? Their archers are now being hemmed in. In fact, let's use this. We'll zoom up here. And at this stage, it's definitely an F1 and F3 situation, right? We want everybody aggressively moving in. It looks like one of our archer divisions routed, which is fine. It's a bloody battle. You're not going to win a battle like this easily. In fact, we still may lose. But what we have is we have infantry now fighting a lot of their hemmed-in archers. And it's not going to go particularly well for the enemy. It's obviously pretty close, but this is, I think, a battle that we've taken from a loss to a victory. Again, just like the other one, we will speed this up here. I'll try not to waste your time. And as you can see, it is going to be successful. Not wildly successful, right? We're fighting a number or fighting an enemy that's playing defensive and who outnumbered us. But ultimately here, we may not win. It's very close. This is one of those situations where obviously you're fighting it out with your own character. The guy I was in control of just got fucking cut down. Let's see what's going on here. But ultimately, this is a victory, right? This was a battle where we would have lost if we left this in charge of the AI. Instead, we have won. At this stage, it is over. The enemy does have a handful of troops left, but not enough to really mount realistically any kind of counterattack. In fact, the battle just ended. The music tells you that. The enemy's routing off the battlefield. And honestly, I think we can actually do better than this result. So we will actually try this now as a follow-up with the RTS mod from... All right, so a little break there to use the bathroom. I'm an old guy. You got to give me these little breaks here and there. And we have it all set up again, but we're going to make a little change here. Because of their position, because of how static they are, even though this will mean less Tier 5 and Tier 6 cavalry, what we're actually going to do is reduce this to 20% and increase our archers to 30%. Basically, what we're going to do is add more ranged damage to our army, and we're going to use the RTS overhead model or overhead mode for this last phase of this episode. This is basically, again, just going to be an illustrative way of how I would try to attack and destroy a force that was being very defensive with multiple forces. Again, we're going to use very similar. We're going to have the 3rd, 5th, and 6th on this right flank. The 1st, 2nd, and 4th on the left flank. So divide our units up here. And I know a lot of this is not real comfortable for people, but again, the more you practice doing this, I'll be surprised if it doesn't become sort of second nature. Just like anything, practice makes perfect, and I have thousands of hours of playing Bannerlord, right? I've fought many, many, many battles. A lot of these battles, they do become sort of second nature. Now I actually want more archers on this other flank over here because there's more space, right? I don't know if you guys sort of saw that. It was really crowded on this left side, so I'm actually going to tilt our right flank more towards archers. 60 or 58 on the left flank, 86 on the right. And then the rest of it is going to be very similar. The difference, though, is, again, we will use this overhead view so that things are easier for you to see at home. And we go here up to the, using the old RTS mode, and again, we start moving our units forward. Now I'm going to play this at normal speed, at least until it gets going here. Once the battle starts going in earnest, then we will speed things up. I'm trying to make these episodes fairly brief, but at the same time, if I rush through this, then you guys don't learn a lot. Getting more and more comfortable with the RTS mode, although it's clearly not second nature yet. But just like streaming, right, the more you do, the better it gets. All right, so units moving into position. You know what we can do? We can do this. We can just slow down the fast speed. What's nice is you can do literally 110% of speed, 120% of speed. You can slow down the entire process of Bannerlord. I apologize. I don't do these videos to troll the guys that are on a console. I wish you guys had all these. Maybe at some point the various different consoles will get in gear, so to speak, and start to set this up. Just like the other battle, again, we're moving close, right? We're not even going to assume shield walls until we're relatively close here. You want your units moving quicker. The longer they're coming in, especially if they're being shot, the more problematic that becomes. Now, again, we'll watch the enemy be defensive. It looks like they are moving up cavalry to sort of counterattack us, but it really doesn't represent a major threat. Now, over here, we're going to try the archers on the far outside portion of it. Realistically, though, this is a situation as a battlefield commander. You want to be checking on your archers sometimes and looking to see, can they actually see the archers? In fact, you can actually see, they can see the archers better right through here, so we'll put them right there. On this side here, we're going to start moving these units in. Now the third corps has already been kind of shot to pieces, right? It was a smaller unit of these sort of Jav Cav, so they've definitely suffered more losses than the first battle. Now we're doing a lot of killing here with our archers, right? Our archers are in here shooting the enemy Cav, and the enemy Cav's all bound up so they can't move. These guys are literally running into their own guys and getting killed. I think we were in shield wall. If we weren't, I want to make sure we're in shield wall. Now this Cav division's almost destroyed, but in getting close, it's already done some good work, right? Just by getting close, what it's doing is it's pushing a path for the rest of our units. Now that the enemy is kind of over this hump, I'm going to move the archers all the way up there so they're almost firing point blank. These skirmishers, again, will put hard on the enemy's flank. These archers, we want really close to the enemy. Now, it's going to tell them to charge. That's okay. That's a UI problem. Like I said, I've mentioned that before in other episodes. It's just par for the course with the RTS mod. The RTS mod doesn't quite know what to make of being up high, and then there's like one unit down there, so it's like, oh, you want me to attack? I understand, attack. Now, look at what the enemy's doing. What they're trying to do is they're trying to move their shield wall around to deal with these various different threats. And by doing so, what they've done is they've completely left these archers open to a cavalry attack, right? So our cavalry charges right behind the cavalry. We will put archers to basically pound the shit out of their archers in the back there that are going to get revealed. The enemy's kind of charging our infantry line. We like that, right? That's optimal for us. Over here, this archer division is largely unmolested. There's a few cavalry kind of charging through here, but these guys are really pounding the enemy. The 1st division is charging. The 3rd division can be told to charge. Now this 6th division, I got it kind of tangled in my own cavalry, but I don't think it's going to matter, right? These guys can also be told to charge. If you want, you can just physically move them up on the enemy like that, right? This stage, what we don't want is these archers shooting, so move units physically into them. Draw a line like right through them. Sorry, we're at the back of the map. That's why it keeps acting haywire like that. So what that does is it makes the skirmishers go directly into their ranks, right? I want these archers and skirmishers in the face of the enemy there. And then once they're on top of them, you attack, right? Charge. These archers here, if you notice, these guys are almost completely free, and so they're just firing away like a firing squad into the backs of the enemy. The enemy has a handful of archers here sort of trying to counter them, but they're also being trucked from the other side by cavalry and infantry, right? These guys they're in a bad way, right? Their support is gone. Actually, that's interesting. Their infantry, they sent such a heavy wave against our 1st division, they annihilated it. But we're kind of winning in other areas. Whereas the enemy won here, these 70 guys, 69 guys that are over here were successful. Our other 5 divisions are all in pretty good shape and racked up some kills. Now, if you notice here, these guys can't shoot the enemy infantry, so we'll move them around the corner. Obviously, this is easier with the RTS mod. This is, again, why I recommend that you practice using this, right? Grab yourself a little RTS mod, and do some combat with Bannerlord. It'll dramatically improve your game. We'll spread these archers out here so that they can completely envelop the enemy, and now we will finish this with some speed. Alright, so again, this is battles. We're using the sergeant mode. Was disaster. Using sort of standard tactics still resulted in a loss, and now we apply some thoughtful advanced tactics here, and this isn't even that advanced, right? You could definitely up this another couple notches. You could up this with shield and shock. You could up this with squares and diversionary tactics. You could up this with a funnel. There's a bunch of different things we could have done here to create an even more victorious result. But the bottom line is we attacked a defensive unit with lots of good troops that outnumbered us by 10% here in a tough environment, and we are still solidly victorious. Hopefully this is helpful for you fellas. I appreciate you guys. By the way, this is I guess a new old mic. I've changed some of the settings, so if you think this mic is better or worse, I'm still sort of figuring all this in, and I have bought a newer, fancier mic. We will probably be trying that out in the next few weeks, sort of in preparation for the aserai campaign, right? I want to make sure that for the aserai campaign, there's a high level of quality for those episodes. So I appreciate you, fellas. Of course, you want to hit subscribe if you want to see more from the channel. Almost all we do is tactics, right? And profanity. It's funny. They're like chasing around these last couple guys here. There's like one legionary. He's just running around yelling at guys. But with all that said, I appreciate you, fellas. Please leave comments. Let me know what you think. If you want to see certain challenges, I'm all up for trying certain challenges. And I will see you guys next time.